Hi, my name is Imre, and of course I'm the guys you're used to seeing in the photography series usually, but recently I got one of these, and it's a mandolin, and there's the back. Ooh, pretty. And it's kind of interesting. I usually play guitar or banjo, but this is kind of a first, but I thought it would be fun to do a quick video on how I go about tuning a mandolin. And why don't we get started? So one of the first things that you should know is that there are 8 strings. They come in pairs. And basically the notes are as follows. They're actually the same as on a violin. So the notes are actually fifths apart. So you have, first of all, let's start with that. Your G, your D, your A, and your E. Now I personally favor using an electronic chromatic tuner like the one you see here. For best results you should be in a quiet location so the microphone of the tuner doesn't pick up any background noise which might generate interference, thus throwing you off tune. I also keep the tuner quite close to me, as you'll see in the next video clip. Usually I'll sit with the tuner right on my knee. And there are no big secrets here. You pretty much pluck a string, look at the readout on the tuner, and keep adjusting your tuning pegs until the tuner's light shines a brilliant green. Alright, so you know the notes. You've got your G again, you have your D, then you have your A, and you have your E. There you go. Now, what I like to do is, first of all, I like to be in a quiet spot to tune, especially if I'm using one of these things, because it has a microphone, so it might pick up some background noise and such. I'm not too worried about that now, but nonetheless. Second thing is, because the strings are in pairs, what I personally like to do is, as you can see my left hand here, I'm actually holding down almost all of the strings except for just the one that I'm wanting to tune. That way I can get a nice clear reading on that, just that one string. One of the things I've noticed, of course, if I'm doing tuning, is if I don't do that, the other strings will of course naturally resonate just a little bit. So by doing that, just by putting my finger across them, I can mute those other strings, and in the seated position here I can quite easily get a hold of the tuning pegs here, and then I can turn it whichever direction I want. So if I switch to the next, still the G string but just the other one, then of course I mute the topmost string here as well as the D, A, and E. And then I just follow through by finishing off the other ones. And that way I can get a very clean tuning on each of the strings, especially with one of these things, an electric tuner. It works really well. Good old chromatic tuner here. Now if you like to take tuning just one step further, right now I tune this mandolin so that open strings, as far as the open strings are concerned, that's just like this. This is a nice G, D, A, and E, perfect. But the problem is, when you actually start fretting and the length of your string changes, you may not actually be in perfect tune anymore. I'll give you an example. I'm going to fret here on the 7th fret of the G string here, and that basically is a D. If you listen closely, here's that G, or G string, the open D. Not quite in tune. So what I could do here is one by one go through all the strings, but by fretting the equivalent note on each for the next string, and then that way I can tune the instrument so it's a little bit more harmonized with itself. Now another tip I can give you is that when you're tuning the same set of strings, like for example these two G's, one of the things you can listen for is kind of a wah-wah sound. The more out of tune you are, the faster that wah-wah-wah-wah-wah sound will go. That's also fun to do. And so if you pluck a string and you pluck the next one and you hear wah-wah-wah, that sound, give one of the strings a twist and you should hear that sound almost disappear or slow down a lot. And it's a good way to ensure that both strings are absolutely perfectly tuned to each other. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that, and you'll be able to now tune your mandolin. And hopefully I'll be back next time with some actual songs if I learn a few tunes on this thing. Check out my blog as usual because I have some notes. If you're new to the instrument, I do have some links to websites where there's some chord charts as well as scales where you can play the scales on the mandolin. So check that out for sure. You can check me out on Facebook as well. And do remember to subscribe. So hope to see you next time. See ya.